Hello and welcome to the ROKER RAPPORT Exiles podcast. I'm Brett Lyons-Davis from Milton Keynes, and today's pod we're talking about Sunderland's build-up to the 2020-2021 season. I think that's the last time I ever call it that. Looking ahead to Hull this weekend, and once again going all Gok Wan discussing the new away kit, plus of course playing away. This evening I'm joined by Bomber from Gloucester. Bomber, how you doing?
Good evening, Brett. Yeah, all good over here. Thank you, mate. How about yourself?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Are you all ready for the start of the season now? Does it feel like it's days away?
It doesn't, you know. I probably speak for quite a few people in that I think we've been without football for so long that we've forgotten what it's like to look forward to a game on a Saturday. So I don't think until the season actually starts and I, check my phone for a latest score or result, I don't think it will sink in. At the moment, each day is pretty much the same. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird situation.
No, it is very, very strange. And I think the fact as well that fans can't even go to the game on Saturday makes it that little bit stranger still, doesn't it? I'm also joined by Paul Hunter in London. Paul, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, Brett. Nice to be back. Nice to hear your voice again.
Thank you very much, mate. It's nice to have you on board. And yourself, are you ready for Saturday?
No, not really. I'm actually going on holiday on Saturday for a week abroad.
So you don't really care then?
Yeah. Doing nothing for 6 months on furloughs really took it out of me. So I'm going abroad for a week just to do nothing. And I'll no doubt be checking the score when I get off the plane in Greece.
Oh, lovely. Very nice. And finally, joining me, he's been with the ROKER RAPPORT for ages, but the first time he's come onto a pod with me. So it's Paddy Hollis in Aberystwyth. Paddy, how you doing?
I'm not too bad, thanks. I'm actually currently in the northeast, so at the minute I'm not in exile, but that's because of the virus. I am usually in exile.
Kick him off.
I know.
Kick him off.
But yeah.
Yeah. So why are you with us then?
Well, I got put in because obviously I've been in Aberystwyth now for a while, and obviously I came up to basically see out the pandemic. Really,
it's great to have you on board, mate. So hopefully I won't scare you off, and you'll come back on again soon.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
So let's jump straight into it then, lads. So we've had 3 pre-season friendlies. We've won all 3. So obviously there was the 3-1 versus Gateshead, 3-1 versus Carlisle, and then 1-0 versus Harrogate on Saturday. Bomber, I'll come to you first though. Where do you feel we're at now, coming up to Saturday's games?
I mean, I think it's difficult to say, really, Brett. The standard of opposition, whilst I appreciate the amount of games that we can get in will be limited, and the standard of opposition will be limited. Obviously, we've kept relatively local in terms of our friendlies, but the quality of the opposition that we've been playing, we should be putting these teams away, and we should be seeing it out relatively comfortably. So whilst it's good to get, as you see all over our team's social media, it's good to get 90 minutes in the legs each time and get back that match sharpness. It's difficult to gauge where we're at because, like I said, any other time, got Sunderland versus Gateshead, Sunderland versus Carlisle, Sunderland versus Harrogate, you'd expect 3 wins and 3 comfortable wins. I think possibly you could argue that the latest result, the 1-0 win against Harrogate, which was a last few minutes goal from Grigg, is actually potentially slightly concerning, leading up to our first game against Hull. I'm thankful that it's not a league game and that we've still got a couple of games to go before the league actually starts. But yeah, I don't really know to kind of sit on the fence. It's good that we've scored 3 goals in 2 of those games. And it's good that everybody is getting minutes, and the new lads seem to be settling in and are getting minutes, and some of the younger lads as well. But I really don't know where we're at. It's not really a benchmark that I can confidently say, yeah, we're where we should be.
No, it is a difficult one. As you say, was the standard of opposition, because I think it sometimes goes down to that question. And I was going to ask this to sort of Paul next, where do results matter? Now I know a lot of players say it's all about getting your fitness up, your performances, getting new boys gelling in. Do results really matter, Paul, at the moment, or is it about like fitness?
I think in pre-season I've always had that notion that it's more about the getting minutes in the legs as opposed to the final result. But I do have to say, having watched the Harrogate game and having watched the Carlisle game last week, that I was sat watching both, and I'm quite concerned about the start of the new season, to be honest. I think if an 18-year-old Dan Neil doesn't come onto the pitch on the 85th minute against Harrogate, I don't think we would have scored. And I think both opposition goalkeepers in both games had it very, very easy. We didn't really test either. So I don't want to be too negative, but I am slightly concerned in that, having watched both games, it felt like nothing had changed since March. It felt like we were watching the same Sunderland, same struggles, same problems. So we all know in terms of pace, creativity, and so on. So yeah, I'm not too pessimistic yet, but there's definitely cause for concern.
No, and again, as you're saying there is one of those things which, and I've seen it mentioned a few times, where as a team we had the second best defence last season behind Coventry, and we seem to have, if anything, strengthened, or well, not strengthened, maybe the wrong word to use, but added to our defence. However, up front is still lacking. Paddy, I'll come to you now. Let you get sort of like your sort of thoughts on pre-season so far before we delve a little bit further into it. Yourself, are you sort of confident going to the season that this team is ready?
I think I do share a little bit of it in the pessimism, in the sense that I think that the team, if we do want to be going in, getting promoted from this league, which obviously, it's our third attempt at it now. I just think we should be looking a bit more decisive against these teams in the lower leagues. So there is a bit of concern. It's just I don't want to fall into the same trap I have in previous seasons, where it's just like, let's just see how the season starts, because sometimes that happens and then you sort of 5-10 games in, nothing's really improved from pre-season, and all of a sudden you're playing catch up really. And I just think probably in this league this season, more than our others in League One, we can't really afford to have too many slow starts in the early stages of the season. So I think we've got to sort of get out the traps as quick as we can really. And I think the pre-season games, they don't really add much optimism to that happening.
Well, based on that, and when you're saying there, and I do agree, we need to hit the ground running straight from the off. Does that mean that the whole game on Saturday, and then we've obviously got Aston Villa's under-21s on the following Tuesday, are they glorified friendlies to you then, Paddy? Is that something where it doesn't, as I say, the result doesn't matter too much, but it's about trying to tweak this team?
I think, I'd say they are. I'd say especially the probably the Hull game more than the Villa game. I think purely because it's going to be a chance to see what one of the newly relegated teams, how they're going to sort of shape up going into the new season. Their taste of being back in League One. I think the way we sort of square up against Hull, it is going to be a good tester to see, just how well this squad have sort of gelled really in the shorter amount of time what they've had together. And I think obviously having the Villa game, soon after as well, it's just going to be a chance to, more than anything, probably just get some more minutes in the tank really for some players who we're probably going to rely on more than what we might think so at this point. For example, Dan Neil, he came on it, as he said. I completely agree. I think if he didn't come on against Harrogate, I think we probably wouldn't have got the result there. And I don't think that's as much of a concern, but I think it's important to get those sort of players, just get them in running the team really. And obviously that's why really he needs to be playing a lot of minutes in the two cup games. And I think, to be honest, to sum it up, I would say they are just sort of glorified friendlies really, in my personal opinion.
Bomber, I see you're nodding your head there.
Yeah, so I think that it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because there was a rumour going around our WhatsApp group that Hull haven't had any pre-season friendlies, but I don't know if you've had that verified or not. But there is
funny enough, actually, Bomber, and I was gonna play it like the interview hadn't happened yet, and like Rich was going to give us a real exclusive. but since you've asked, they've had no official, and I use the old inverted commas there, pre-season friendlies. I think they've had some sort of like behind closed doors, but it tends to be more made of 11v11 whole players as opposed to actual friendlies. So
for that reason, I think for all intents and purposes, Hull are going to treat it as a pre-season friendly. So if we take it seriously and they take it as a friendly, then it should only go one way. But then again, it wouldn't really give us a yardstick as to how prepared we are for the season, because we're playing against a team who are playing their first official kind of friendly of the season, or first official competitive game. The one thing I would say pre-season is good for, and you can always spin pre-season. If you lose your pre-season games, it doesn't matter, it's about the fitness. If you win all your pre-season games, it's good to get that winning mentality and get used to winning. But the one thing I would say is pre-season is essential for strikers, and it is good to see, regardless of the opposition, it is good to see Will Grigg, Charlie White and a couple of the midfielders get on the score sheet and actually, more than once and in more than one game, because I think that will be crucial. That is probably the most important thing for me for pre-season. But to just go back to your point, I think the whole game will be a friendly, whether we want it to be or not. And the Villa game, it's their under 23s, so it depends how seriously we want to take the checker trade or whatever it's called this season.
I think also just on about how it's still sort of a friendly kind of game. You look at the way the fixtures are going to be congested this season anyway. Like, do we really want to be moving on in the League Cup? I know obviously it's nice to progress in a tournament, but in a way maybe it is good to sort of treat it as a pre-season game, give a good run out to maybe some players who will be sort of rotation players this year, and then perhaps get knocked out. I know obviously it doesn't sound great saying, I want to lose a game of football, because I don't want to lose it, but if you just look at the amount of times we're going to have midweek games and, the sort of congestion which is in League One anyway, but obviously when you look at how the fixtures are going to be even more congested with what's happened, then, you have got to sort of weigh up the pros and cons of really putting the effort in, I think, against Hull.
Yeah, these upcoming games remind me of the time when Parkinson was first appointed. I'm sure we had a couple of 2 or 3 cup games in quick succession.
Yeah, we did.
And I remember, like it was yesterday, everybody said, quite happy, go out the cups, just concentrate on the league. And what happened? We lost the cup games and World War III broke out. And you can kind of see that coming here, in my opinion. And it's all well and good as saying, it's all about the league. But if we do lose against Hull and lose against Villa under 21s or 23s, the power of social media, what's going to happen. So I think if we do lose, it has to be in the manner in which we do lose.
That's exactly literally what I was about to say then. It's a really it's that dangerous mindset, isn't it, where, and you're exactly right, that's exactly what happened last year, that no one was bothered about the cups until you get knocked out of the cups.
Yeah.
So, and if we started this season, and what could arguably say could happen, is that we lose both Hull and the Villa game, or the Villa under 23s game, and then all of a sudden we've lost our opening 2 games of the season. Yeah. And the pressure's already on then, despite us still being on 0 points like everybody else in the league. Mm-hmm. But the pressure's massively on. So, on one sense, you're 100% right. There's a lot of games to play. It's going to be very, very tight. But on the other hand, it's like nobody wants to see us lose. So
I think it's exceptional circumstances, though, isn't it? Like with the season starting later and it being more congested. For me, and I hope for the majority of Sunderland fans as well, the league, the League Cup, we're never going to win. The chances are we won't get past the 3rd or 4th round. The only real gain that it will have to us will be financially in terms of prize money potentially. But it's an extra fixtures that we could do without. Yep. The Football League trophy. We've got to a final already. Do we want to get there again? Do we want those extra fixtures against under 23 teams and the League 2 teams, etc.? So for me personally, if we were to lose both, let's say on penalties, I think the Football League trophy games do go to penalties, don't they?
Straight to penalties.
Yeah. So if we were to put in 2 decent performances and go out and lose both on penalties, I wouldn't really care.
No. They didn't even finish the final, did they, this year?
No.
Pompey and Salford, which kind of tells you how important that trophy is.
It's way down the list of priorities for the Football League, never mind the clubs. So in regards to pre-season then, I know there's been a little bit of like negativity in the performances or scores, to a degree. Is there anyone that's come out of this that's really impressed and sort of taken the chance? I know we've mentioned Dan Neil already, but is there anyone now that's maybe was on the cusp last season of getting the team or is now really actually forcing their way into that first 11, or is it going to be the same thing as always on Saturday? Paddy, what are your sort of thoughts on any players that have shone so far?
I think it's looking at obviously the performances so far and that, I think I wouldn't really say he's shone, but I think for him personally, probably the fact that Will Griggs scored, he's like getting a couple of games and obviously goals under his belt. I think that will do him quite a lot of good because, I don't know how much sort of notice he takes of social media and that kind of thing, but I think for him going into the new season, having, just found the back of the net, I think it's as simple as that really. I don't think it really mattered about the performances he put in. I think just for him to just get some time on the pitch and get some goals really, I just think that's going to, hopefully that will do him the world of good going into the new season.
Do you think it'll help him actually not having fans there on Saturday?
Yes, I think, to be honest, I think a lot of our players will benefit from that. But I think, especially the likes of, Greg, he's a striker who, we've had it in the past where, we've signed strikers, there's been a lot of anticipation and it just hasn't worked out. But I think, obviously, in this sort of exceptional circumstance, I think our strikers, particularly Greg and Wyke, depending on how much game time Wyke is actually going to get, I think it's going to do them a lot of good to play a competitive match in an empty stadium, because obviously, you can take that side of the game out. You can take out the risk of you have a bad touch and then, instantly you hear a groan or a boo from the crowd. And, if that happens early on, then that can be their confidence done for the whole game. So I think it's going to be interesting, especially for our strikers, to be playing in that kind of atmosphere, but in a competitive game. Because obviously, at our level, obviously, that hasn't been done yet, because we've just had the pre-season games. So it's going to be interesting. I think, obviously, having these players who appear to us to struggle under the pressure of playing in front of, the crowds, what we get at the Stadium of Light, it's going to be really interesting to see, I think.
Paul, for yourself, obviously, as we saw there, it was great for Greg to get a couple of goals on the score sheet during pre-season. Has anyone else for you really shone at all?
Only the two names I've got down as who's impressed is Dan Neil through his cameos here and there, and Bailey Wright at the back. We knew what we were getting when we signed Bailey Wright. Mm-hmm. He was a massive part of that good run that we went on after Christmas last year, and he just seems to hold everything together at the back. The massive worry with him is, of course, his injury record. If he does get injured, I think we're struggling back there. But we just look a lot more organised and harder to beat with him at the back. So apart from Neil and Wright, I'm struggling, to be honest with you.
He does seem to really fit in well to the team as well, doesn't he? I think it's not just his performances on the pitch. I know you see a lot of him on social media and stuff like that. He does seem to have that kind of a strong personality as well.
Yeah, he's. I think he was captain at Preston. I think he was maybe club captain at Bristol City. I could be wrong there.
He was, yeah.
But and I think if potentially if he can stay fit, I don't see why he can't be made captain for Sunderland over the next few years or whatever. But yeah, he's a massive part of that defence, and yeah, we just pray that he can keep himself fit.
No, definitely. Well, looking forward now then to Saturday's game. So we did mention Bailey right there as one of the incoming players, and they've also had Aidan O'Brien that's coming as well. Since our last Exiles pod, we've added Morgan Feeney from Everton and Remy Matthews in goal from Bolton. So they're now in the squad. And before Saturday's game, we might have obviously it's been heavy linked so far, and there's not been nothing official yet, that Danny Graham might be coming in, and the Kosovan international Arbanet Shamajli, who I really look forward to saying that. Not including those two, because at the moment, say they're not officially Sunderland players, and they may not be come the weekend. But for Bomber, for you, who's going to start on Saturday's game? Now, so I think the back five plus the keeper picks themselves. I may be wrong, but Burge, O'Nien, Willis, Flanagan, Wright, and Hume. Apart from that, is there anyone else where do you think going forward who's going to be playing?
Well, I think you're going to see by and large. I personally think they're pretty much the exact same team, bar maybe one change that we've seen over pre-season. That's the one thing that does alarm me, is if you take the two new potential signings out, is just how thin our squad is. Before recording this, I was looking through kind of our recognised registered first team players, and now that we've got Feeney in, we've now got 4 centre backs. I don't think we've got anybody to cover Denver Hume. I think we've got probably 2 right backs, haven't we, McLaughlin and O'Nien. So I think you're right. That pretty much picks itself. I think we'll see Lee Burge in goal, not because of Matthews' error in the previous game he played in, but just because it makes sense that he starts the season as number 1. And then I think the only real decision is going to be whether Charlie Wyke or Will Grigg start up top, assuming we're going with the old 3-5-1-1, or however we decide end up playing it, or 3-4-3. I think that's the only question mark is whether Wyke or Grigg starts. So I think you're going to see Max Power in there. You're going to see Gooch in there. You're probably going to see O'Brien. So yeah, there's not a lot of places up for grabs purely because there's not a lot of people to go and take those places at the moment. So yeah, I think we're going to see pretty much the same sort of lineup that you would expect from the back end of last season. Maybe with one surprise, maybe Dan Neil's worked his way into a starting position, and maybe Aidan O'Brien starts. But other than that, I don't think there's going to be any surprises really.
It is going to be interesting to see what happens with Dan Neil, because he really has sort of pushed himself. He's pushed himself to the front of the queue to at least be on the bench. And he's probably knocking on the door to get a start. And it would be good to see him what he can do over 90 minutes in a proper match. Paul, yourself, obviously I think we all guarantee the back's where it's going to be going forward. Where do you see things lying?
I think it's going to be, as Bombers just said, I think it's going to be pretty much the same team that finished end of last season. Maybe I think Scowen might start instead of Dobson, so you probably have Scowen next to Power. Scowen did look like he likes to have a shot from distance, which could be a plus because Power and Dobson only got 2 goals between them the entire of last season. So we might see Scowen start next to Power. I just throw Dan Neil in. I think we've got nothing to lose. Got first game of season, got nothing to lose. I think that the thing with Dan Neil is I don't think any of us quite know if he's would he play next to a Power or a Dobson or a Scowen, or would he take a Gooch or Maguire spot in a more advanced role? I don't think we've seen enough of him yet to kind of figure that out. But I think he'll go with Wyke up top. I think we've done the Wyke and Grigg debate a million times over now, and yeah, I think it'll be pretty much more as we were.
And Paddy, I'll come to you as well. Are you saying the same?
Pretty much, yeah. I do like the idea of if Dan Neil's going to play, if he's going to start a match, then the ideal situation is opening day cup game. I think it would be good to have him alongside Dobson or Power, because I think, like we said, obviously we do need a bit more bites going forward in that sort of central midfield position, because really, Power and Dobson, they didn't create anywhere near as much as they should have last season, I don't think. And I think it would be good to see Josh Scowen in there a bit more. So yeah, it's very similar really, but I just think the main point I would take out of it would be get Dan Neil starting really, because I think it's just an ideal chance for him.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's quite funny how we were at the end of last season, we were all clambering for the likes of Embleton and Jack Diamond and that to be given the chance, and now all of a sudden no one's talking about him and everybody's talking about Dan Neil. I find that quite surprising.
Yeah,
but he just seems to come out of nowhere and jumped ahead of the pair of them in terms of the fans clambering for him to start.
I do think though it's sort of like, I think it's actually quite good that we've got Dan Neil coming through, and at the same time we've also got Diamond and Embleton who are going to be part of the squad, and you've got to think it's really good to have 2 other promising players who maybe aren't getting as much of a mention as Dan Neil, but to have them still around the squad, it does show that maybe in terms of getting the right kind of younger players in, we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah. I just wouldn't want them to kind of get forgotten about, and then we end up in the same situation as last season, going, we should have given them more game time, and ultimately we end up falling foul of it and potentially losing them.
The one thing on Diamond is what I would say is he only came on towards the end, I think, against Harrogate. Game before that against Carlisle, he was playing left wing back, which I think if we're going to give these kids a chance, we've got to be fair to them and play them in their proper position.
Yeah, you've got to give them the proper chance to impress, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
No, that is definitely it. And one thing I did want to ask all 3 of you then, as I said, there was heavily linked with 2 players, one of them being Danny Graham making a return. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. If he does come back, obviously we had him, 5 years ago maybe now, didn't set the world alight by any stretch of the imagination. Bomber, I'll come to you first on that. Would you be pleased to see him back?
No, not at all. Not at all. His I've got nothing against him, and even that spell he had with us, the 2 or 3 years he had in the mid 2000 teens. You couldn't fault his endeavour and his work rate, etc. He gave everything, but he just wasn't good enough, and he's not been good enough, in my opinion, wherever he's gone since. You could argue, 45, 46 goals for Blackburn in the 4 seasons he's been there. It is a reasonable return, but is it? It's the best probably return of of his career, but I think I would much rather see us take a gamble on a good young striker than bring Danny Graham back, because I just don't think he's gonna be another. He's going to be third behind Wyke and Grigg, in my opinion. I just don't see what he brings. I think it's a waste. Most squads that challenge for a title or challenge for promotion have 4 options in the striking department, and whilst he is an option, I just don't see him being a very good one, and certainly not enough to help us. Certainly not what we need. And as for the other guy, I don't really know much about him, apart from there's quite a bit of a buzz about him.
Well, which other guy was this?
The Kosovan guy that you mentioned, Brett. I don't know anything about him, so I couldn't possibly comment. But Danny Graham for me, no. Let's set our sights elsewhere. If he does come and he proves me wrong, great. But I'm not excited by that at all.
No, that's fine then, mate. And Paddy, yourself, are you feeling the same as Bomber?
Yeah, I'm really in the same camp as Bomber. I just think, he's been mentioned for quite a few weeks now, and I don't know, it doesn't really fill me confidence that this is the kind of player who, at 35 years old, we're looking to bring in. And as he said, I don't really think, I can't see him scoring as regularly or more regularly than what Wyke and Grigg have been, and I just think it's going to be. As you said, other teams in League One have gone out and they've taken a risk on a young player who's maybe scored goals, at the sort of 4th, 5th, 6th tier, and it's worked out. And I just think that we're better off doing that. I don't see why there's so much sort of clamour to get him back in, because I know it was a few years ago and it was in the Premier League, but his performances, if we see that again in League One, then it's going to do. The confidence of the team and the fans is just going to plummet once again, because they're going to have another striker who is going to struggle to score goals. And to be honest, we've had too many of them in the past, Danny Graham being one of them. So I just don't really see why we're so eager to bring him back in, really.
Yeah. And again, so Paul, I'll let you have a go as well, in case you're going to disagree and prove us all wrong. But
yeah, the problem I have with the signing of the potential signing of Danny Graham is the other 2 strikers that we currently have.
Yeah.
When you add Danny Graham to Wyke and Grigg, I mean, if you can get promoted with those 3 strikers, then you've done very, very well. If we had a capable centre forward who could hold the ball up and had a bit of pace, do you know what? I'd probably take a punt on Graham to bring him in as a number 2 striker, and hope and gamble that the qualities that he does have are maybe a step above your average League One defender, if that makes sense. Yeah. Maybe you can, be a bit smarter upstairs and almost like a sort of Teddy Sheringham type role. But yeah, I think probably clutching at straws there.
But didn't we hope that for Carl Lafferty as well, though?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but so I'll give all 3 of you. If you're not scoring goals, Danny Graham isn't the answer to that. Before I move on, does anybody else want to have a crack at pronouncing this Kosovan international's name?
Majli. Arbanice Majli.
There you go. Well done.
You almost sounded like you were putting on a bit of a Eastern Bloc accent then, Paul. Well.
Said in a Borat style.
Yeah.
Right, moving on. Our man Rich Spate he's live right now, Bomber, speaking to somebody. Earlier on today, he caught up with Luke Flanagan from Tigers, blah, blah, blah. Here's what they had to say.
I'm joined now by Luke Flanagan from Tigers, blah, 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 which is a Hull City podcast, and he's a Hull City fan. How are you, Luke?
I'm very good, mate. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us this evening. Last time your club were down at this level was 2004, 2005. I lived in Hull and I was regularly attending the KC. I get my fix of football every week. And after getting established in the Championship, you had 5 seasons in the Premier League. And the club have never really looked like dropping back down to the lower levels. On the 1st of January, as I'm sure everyone will know, you were 8th in the Championship, and now you're back down here in League One, and we've got the first round of the EFL Cup. So how have you ended up here? Was it loss of key players or what?
It's a long story. Effectively, I think what the biggest thing was the current owners that we have came in around 10 years ago, and it was positive to start with. And then they did the whole thing that everybody, I'm sure, is aware of, where they tried to change the name to Hull Tigers, and that divided a lot of supporters. And they didn't get their way with the name change. The FA didn't let them. They also couldn't buy the stadium off the council, which they didn't like either. And since then, it's kind of turned a bit sour. Even though we have had 2-3 seasons in the Premier League, it's just kind of got worse and worse as the years have gone on. And obviously, as you say, we were 8th last year, or start of the year this year, after the Sheff Wednesday game, and we finished 24th. So it's a massive fall from grace. Simply we sold 2 of our most creative players in that January transfer window. We sold Kamil Grzycki to West Brom, who obviously is now a Premier League player, and then Jared Bowen went to West Ham, where he's ripping it up, to be fair, when I've seen him. So good luck to him. But the manager, it can take a lot of the blame, because he played one way with those 2 very good players and it worked, and he didn't have a plan B when they left, and that's where we got to. We had a horror show with injuries just before lockdown, and I did hope that when we got back after lockdown, the majority of players were back, but it didn't make a difference. We won 1 game and drew 1 more, and that was it. I think it was 4 points out of about 9 games. So it was just a rotten run, which culminated in 3-0 defeat, sending us down at Cardiff. So it was a fairly depressing 2020 for Hull City, really.
Yeah, it looked heartbreaking, the aftermath of that game against Cardiff a few weeks ago. And your season ended in July. We stopped playing in March when League One was cancelled. So how has the Tigers' pre-season gone? You've not had any friendlies, is that right?
Yeah. None that were publicised. It's been a kind of constant source of annoyance for a lot of City fans, myself included. Obviously, fans want to know about any of the pre-season friendlies that are going. I understand in the current circumstances, you can't advertise a friendly because fans will turn up, won't they? I understand that. But I know they played 2 games against Rotherham on Saturday behind the KC, behind closed doors, 2 different 11s. And it depends who you ask as to what score it was. The only footage we've got is about 10 seconds where James Scott, who we signed in January, scored a nice lob, and that was on his Instagram story. That was the only proof that we have that actually existed. So there was absolutely no coverage from the club, no coverage from anybody. So it's been really bizarre. It's almost been like they're trying to keep everything a secret. Well, I don't know why you do that, because I know, for example, Sunderland, they streamed one, if not all, of the pre-season friendlies for fans to watch. So it does seem a little bit baffling, and we've got no real clue as to how the squad is shaping up with the new signings that we've done. We've got no real clue as to how they're going to perform on Saturday against Sunderland. So it's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, how important do you think the League Cup is going to be then for Grant McCann this term? Do you think he's going to take it seriously, or is it going to be? I mean, we've been discussing amongst ourselves whether Sunderland are going to see the League Cup and the trophy as an extension of pre-season at this stage. Do you think it is important for McCann?
I think he needs to get wins, whether it's in the Cup or whether it's in the EFL Trophy or whether it's in the league. I think fans are going to expect him to. I know Sunderland's a big club, and I know you've been down in League One. This will be a third season.
Third season, yeah.
So a big club and like 48,000 capacity stadium. Yeah, even if it's half full, you've still got our stadium numbers kind of full because we only hold 25,000. But I think the fans are going to expect wins straight away because, as you say, we've not been in League One for 15 years. So there's a lot of expectation for us to do well straight off the bat, I think. If they don't win, which I personally I think Sunderland will nick it. I think it'll be a close game, but I do think Sunderland will win. And I don't think it's the end of the world at all, because obviously then there's the AFL Trophy. They're all in different groups, aren't they? So there's four teams in each group, and it's all kind of divided up. But I do think he needs to kind of win the fans back, so to speak, because 2 wins in 2020 ain't good enough, is it?
It certainly isn't. I mean, you do have to get back to winning ways, but you've done some decent transfer business over the summer. The name that stood out for me was Greg Doherty from Rangers, who we were interested in, I think, back in January. Have you been impressed with the business?
Fairly, actually, yeah, and fair play. I mean, they need to recruit for a good League One finish and try and push on for the top half of the table or playoffs. I think City fans will expect playoffs minimum. I don't know about myself, but with the state of the club, I do think that this is all about consolidation this season. But yeah, I was impressed with the Doherty signing, impressed with Louis Coyle, was obviously player of the year for Fleetwood last year. We've signed him. He's a hometown boy as well, so that's a good one. And I'm also been impressed with there's another Richie Smallwood from Blackburn in the midfield. He'll give us a bit of bite, which is exactly what we didn't have. We had no kind of leader in midfield. or anywhere of the pitch, to be fair. And he's been made club captain already without playing a game, so you can see how little kind of choice there was in terms of leaders before. So I think they've recruited well, certainly, but I just want to see how those players fit into that system, because Grant McCann plays 4-3-3 and never changes ever. So your guess is as good as mine.
So, I mean, you talked about bite in midfield. You talked about captains and leaders. Last summer, you took our captain, George Honeyman, to the club. But he was always divided opinion among Sunderland fans, but is still well loved and well respected, obviously, as a hometown lad, and obviously still loves the club. We had a podcast with him over the summer, and I think it's still a bit raw with him, just the way that the transfer came about. But how's he settled in, and did he impress the fans last year?
Took him a while. I think it was difficult for him because he'd been at Sunderland from, I think, the age of 11.
Yeah.
If that's not right. So your first move somewhere else, he's obviously a Sunderland boy, and it's going to take time when you've left a club that you obviously have a big affiliation for, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think to start with, it was a little bit underwhelming. I think the problem that you had was that he could never nail down a place. There were always players that were preferred in his position. One thing that did impress me, though, was after the lockdown period, and we had Herbie Kane on loan from Liverpool, and he just started to hit form and then got a season-ending injury. And Honeyman came in to fill that void, and actually he really impressed a lot of people. They didn't really have a high opinion of Honeyman before, but his set pieces in particular caused constant threat, from the set pieces, corners, free kicks, that sort of thing. And he was one of the only ones that always showed for the ball, even when we got whacked by Wigan 8-0. He was one of the only ones who was actually showing for the ball and wanting it and trying to make things happen, and saying to players, you're feeling sorry for yourself, get your act together, you have some pride in your shirt, sort of thing. So I've gone from being indifferent towards him to actually really liking him as a player. And I'm sure City fans many City fans would probably agree with me with that.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing you can be guaranteed with George, he'll always give 100%. He'll leave nothing on the pitch. He's a proper professional.
Definitely.
And I think that was why he was made captain of the club in 2018 at Sunderland. But looking through your squad, many Sunderland fans will recognise the name Tom Eaves. He scored twice against us for Gillingham in 2018-19 and really was one of our top transfer targets in January 19 when we brought in Will Grigg. But he only got 8 in 44 for you last season?
Yeah, 4 in the league.
So is he still the one you kind of pin your hopes on for goals in the season ahead, or have you brought in players who might be ahead of him now?
It's a difficult one. That I think the Championship was too much for him, but I also think the way we played didn't suit him. I think he'd play much better with a striker off him. I think there's better of a two and getting balls into the box and stuff, and we didn't do that. I think there'd be scope for him and Keane Lewis Potter to play up front. It's a young lad that's like a local lad that a lot of City fans are really wanting to see get a run in the league, and he never really did, which was another way that people were annoyed with McCann, to be honest. But he's obviously done it in League One before with Gillingham, hasn't he? So you would hope that this would be his level, but I'd love to be proved wrong, but I don't know if I can't see it. His confidence is just bereft. He didn't have any at the end of the campaign last year. And I think you're looking at more sort of wide players who can cut in, like James Scott and Malik Wilkes maybe. But even then, we need another striker as well. We need another striker as an alternative to Eaves, and we haven't got that just yet, unless one of the academy boys comes through. So we'll have to see. Jury's out on him, and I'm afraid for me, I'd much rather have had Will Grigg that you got.
Well, I was going to say, because it does sound very much like the kind of situation that Will Grigg's got himself in at Sunderland, really, where players come with good League One pedigree, certainly, and has his confidence knocked and really doesn't find his form again. But from what we've seen in the pre-season games that have been streamed, actually Will Grigg looks pretty sharp and fit. So we're, I don't know, cautiously optimistic or stupidly hopeful, depending on which way you want to look at it, about whether Griggy will actually manage to settle and start scoring the goals we expected in the year ahead. And I'm sure it's the same for Eaves. When you look at the Sunderland squad, what players stick out for you as being important for Hull City to kind of get to grips with and stop on Saturday?
I think Will Grigg's a big one, to be honest. He will be playing, won't he?
Oh, I'm I wouldn't be guaranteeing that. He seems to still prefer Charlie White as his first choice striker, but we don't know. We've seen 4-6 different lineups.
Whether it's White or whether it's Grigg, I think our defence is going to struggle against players with that kind of fox in the box in front of the goal. The City defence is notoriously one where if you concede early, the heads go down. Right. And I can imagine if it's Sunderland's first proper game for a long time, because you haven't played him since March, have you, properly, apart from pre-season, I think they'll be proper out of the traps, and I think City will be under the cosh for a lot of it. There was a lad that caught my eye, which is one of the young lads. I forget his name. He's come through the youth system and he's been playing the pre-season friendlies. You'll have to remind me of his name.
Well, we've had Jack Diamond, who was at Harrogate, and Dan Neil, who's emerged.
Dan Neil,
just broken into the first team picture, really.
Yeah.
In the last 3 games, I'm really impressed.
Yeah, I did see some of the highlights of the game at the weekend, the Sunderland game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I don't know if he'd be kind of a left field shout for a start. I think maybe he'd be more sort of off the bench, but he'd be definitely one that you want to look for the season. I think that's one of your kind of players that's going to come through along with was it Diamond, the other one who was at Harrogate. So I think, to be honest, I think you'll have too much for us. I don't think it matters which players if you play with. I don't know if that's just me being very, very pessimistic because of the last however many games in 2020 we've won 2 games in the league. It's very difficult to get that negative kind of mentality shifted, isn't it? Maybe the new players would help, but I personally don't think it matters who Sunderland will pick. I still think they'll win. And that's very pessimistic, but I think that's the way a lot of City fans are feeling at the minute.
Well, we know about pessimism, especially after you've dropped down a couple of divisions. So, I mean, you've given your prediction for this one. I think you said 1-0. You think we'll nick it?
It's either 1-0 or 2-1, I think.
I think I'm going to go with 2-0 to Sunderland, because actually, if there's one area of the pitch I'm not overly concerned about with us this season, it is at the back, where I think bringing in Bailey Wright has been possibly, the thing that, if we are going to go up, might in the end be the crucial factor. And the fact that you have not had a pre-season, really, as far as we know, or as far as anyone's been able to see.
Definitely 2 games, but behind closed doors and different 11s, so you're only counting it as 1, really. And we'll see. I'll see. Obviously tonight I'm at the under-23, so some of those lads will be playing in the first team. We'll just have to see which ones break through, but as you say, I think for the defender you got, I think we'd kill for somebody like that for proper solidity at the back, because it's just not what we've had.
Certainly. No, I mean, it really is that's the foundation I think we're going to build on this year. So wish you all the best for Saturday and, for this evening, and then not really for Saturday, but for the rest of the season. Luke, it's been lovely speaking to you, and I hope we go up in the top 2 with Hull City, because I certainly have a soft spot for City, having been there many times myself.
I have a couple of Sunderland fans who are friends as well, so I wouldn't be upset if we both ended up going up to the Championship. I don't think it'd be any bad thing. I think it'd be great. So
finally, Luke, where can listeners find your podcast and the other bits and pieces that you do?
So the easiest way to go is on Twitter, which is @TigersBlah, and then all the links are there. So we're on Spotify, Apple, all the usual podcast outlets, and that'll be the best one to find, I think, on Twitter.
Super. Cheers, Luke. It was lovely to speak to you.
So that was Luke Flanagan there from Tigers, blah, 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 with our man Rich Spate. Confirming, what we did say earlier, that they've not sort of had any official friendlies so far this season. Luke wasn't the most positive of mindsets about the game. Obviously, he said there that it would be either a 1-0 or 2-1 defeat for Hull, and then Rich went for a 2-0 Sunderland. So they've both gone for a Sunderland win. Bomber, what's your prediction then for Saturday?
So I would go along the lines of with Rich's. I will predict us a win. I think whilst not probably treat it as a fully fledged competitive game, I think it'll be, a gateway for Parky to step up preparations for that first league game. So it'll be the most seriously taken one as we've had, whilst still probably tinkering a little bit. Whereas Hull will treat that as a friendly. So I can see it not being the greatest of games, but us coming away 2-0, 2-1 winners, and hopefully another goal or two for one of the strikers.
So that's Bomb's prediction there. Paul, what were you thinking?
I'll go for a 1-1 draw. Does it go to penalties?
Straight to
It
penalties.
will
I think,
do,
isn't
yeah.
it?
Straight to penalties. No extra time, I would have thought. I might be
I'll
wrong.
go for us to win on penalties.
Win on penalties.
Yeah,
And then Paddy.
I'm going to go for 1-0 Sunderland. I think it will be scrappy. But I think, sort of agreeing with Bomber there, I think our maybe slightly more serious approach to it, purely because it will be, it'll be Hull's first game of any sort of kind, really. I think that'll give us the edge, really. I think it'll be maybe sort of 70th, 75th minute, might grab a goal, sort of maybe that sort of time we'll finally sort of grind them down. But yeah, I don't think it'll be a classic, but I can see us being on the winning side.
Yeah, it does have the feel of just a hard fought, low scoring game, doesn't it? So moving on. So last time we were on, the home kit had just been released, and myself, Chris and John got all Gokwan and discussed it and let our thoughts be known. So the other day our new away shirts just come out. Paddy, I'll jump to you first on this one. So it's a navy shirt, red collar, red shorts, navy socks. A little bit of a throwback in my eyes to the Avec mid-90s shirt. Where do you stand on it, mate? You buying it?
I'm quite disappointed with it, to be honest. I just think I can see how they've sort of tried to go back, and try and give it a bit of a retro style, especially with that collar. But I just think that I'm in no way in the position to be a fashion critic, but I just don't see how that bright red of a collar goes with that dark blue of a shirt. I think if you take the collar off, it's a really good kit. So I think looking at sort of the last few years at our away kits, a lot of them have been very good. I think one of my favourite ones was probably it was quite simple, but the one we got relegated in from the Championship, that sort of sky blue one. But I just think to get the home kit so right this year, and then I just feel like too many things have gone wrong with the away kit. I mean, that saying, I might end up buying it at the end of the season, but I'm not going to be paying full price for it, I don't think. I'm not really a fan.
Paul, yourself?
Yeah, I quite like it. I'm not one to sort of buy kits these days. I'm sort of retro or nothing, probably because I live in London and think I'm a hipster. But no, I don't mind it at all. I prefer, something, as I said, more retro, something Hummel would be nice, but yeah, don't mind it all. It's got a bit of inner detail, I think, on the sort of shirt, in terms of some kind of shapes.
Yeah, small
yeah,
angles,
quite like
chevrons,
that. Yeah, don't mind that. Don't mind it at all.
You're a man after my own heart, Paul. I've said many times on these pods, 1992, our kits reached perfection and will never ever surpass those kits. Those Hummel ones, with the collar, red and white sleeves, the 92 Cup final away shirt, Vaux. I'm done.
If we ever go back to Hummel, they've got the easiest job ever because they just need to copy what they did in 1992.
Yeah,
that designer's got the easiest job ever.
They will sell absolutely
they
shed loads. The thing is that they'll probably never sell any more shirts after that, though, because everyone will buy that season's and have no need to buy a new kit. So, Bomber, yourself, are you going to be wearing that away shirt around Gloucester?
I probably won't buy it and wear it, but that's again because I'm in my mid-30s now and not a teenager. Although in my late teens and early 20s, I went through a phase of buying and collecting football shirts, not just Sunderland ones, of all sorts. So the temptation might be there. I kind of do disagree a bit with Paddy in the colourway. So I quite like the contrast between the red and the blue. The collar, it's the collar for me. I never like a football kit that's got a proper fold down collar. If that was a trim, and was a round collar and it had that trim on the collar and on the cuffs, that would be spot on for me. I'd really like that.
Yeah, but you can't put your collar up like Eric Cantona.
No, but then we're in League One. It should be banned. Anything below Champions League, flipping collars should be banned.
As should coloured boots. you're League One for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I like it. I do like it. Like I said, I'd rather the collar be a round neck and that red beard trim. But as far as kits go, it's fine.
That's fine. Right, we're coming to the end of the pod, which means only one thing. It's playing away time. So I'm sure you all know the rules by now. I've picked a game from our past around this time of year, and basically lads have got to pick the starting lineup. So if they do get a sub, they get another go. I'm trying my best this time to keep on top of the scores. So at the moment, John's got 2 points. Chris Wynn's got 1 point. Obviously from the last time he played. So I'll let Bomber, you can go first, but I'll tell you this. Obviously, tell you what the game was. So it's Birmingham City 0, Sunderland 3 from the 2014-2015 League Cup. So it's the second round game here. We beat Birmingham 3-0, and I'll give you some sort of clues. So it's the Adidas home shirt we're wearing. We are at St Andrews. It's the one with the gold trim on it, and Bidvest is the sponsor. Gustavo Poyet is our manager, and funny enough, Lee Clark is the Birmingham manager. Now, I will say one of the players in our team is he who shan't be named. So that's one person who's out. He was a goal scorer. So there's 10 players to get for this one. Bomber, I'll let you go first though.
So I was actually at this game, and I was in one of the boxes at St Andrews. My manager at the time had a box. Work, he had a box, so I actually went to this game. And I know Josie Altidore because he scored.
Josie Altidore did play, but Josie Altidore didn't score.
Oh God!
In this one,
maybe my memory's not as good as I thought. Then
I've actually been to I've been in the boxes in Birmingham. Funny enough, because from my old job, and my boss was a Chelsea fan, and we got in, and you actually sit with the Birmingham fans right in front of you. And Chelsea lost, and I had Birmingham fans hammering on this glass for about 70 minutes, taking the piss, and I couldn't give a shit what that score was.
Yeah,
it's the one and only time I've ever done a box, and I don't got bother again. Paddy, I'll
rack my brains.
I'll jump to you then, mate. So the first one down is Josie Altidore.
Right. So I'm thinking, trying to go off. Well, I was trying to think of who scored. Now, I'm going to go with. Let's go with Craig Gardner.
Oh.
Right, Craig Gardner is not. Double check this. Yeah, Gardner was not in the team that day. So, Paddy, you're a life down. Paul, over to you.
Okay, I don't remember the game, but I'm going to go John O'Shea, just because John O'Shea, I think, has played 90% of Sunderland's entire games in the history.
And one of those 9% is this one. So John O'Shea is in the team. Back to Bomber.
So
who else didn't score?
May or may not have scored a goal, because that's what I'm trying to work through. But I think Connor Wickham was up front, and I think he also scored.
You remembered that one correctly. Connor Wickham did score. Right. So you didn't get that drunk.
No.
Paddy, back to...
No, a lovely 3-course meal, though. It was lovely.
I'll go with Seb Larson.
Seb Larson is in the team. Paul?
I'll go Catamol, because same reasons as John O'Shea.
Lee Catamol was on the bench, so you do get another go.
Wes Brown?
Wes Brown was playing alongside John O'Shea. Back to you, Bomber.
So, I can't remember which... Basically, I've said, I was at that game so I can remember it, and I've got one goal scorer wrong, and I can't remember who was in goal, so I'm going to take a guess at Vito in goal.
Well, Vito wasn't in goal, but you get another go at it.
Oh, so in that case, it was Pantilimon.
Pantilimon in goal, correct.
Yeah. Great memory.
Did you even go to this game?
I definitely was at this game, yeah. I was definitely at this game.
Back to Paddy.
Okay, I'll go with, because I'm fairly sure he was with us this season, Jordi Gomez.
Jordi Gomez is there, and he did score, correct.
Yeah, there you go, I got one.
So, back to Paul.
Barini?
Barini was not playing that game. Barini, so you've lost a life. So, Paul's lost a life, Paddy's lost a life, Bomber hasn't. And Bomber's next.
We'll go full-backs then, so Billy Jones.
Billy Jones is there.
Was that a sigh of despair there, Paul?
No, I was going to go Jones next. What month was it, Brett?
So what month?
Yeah.
August the 27th. So back to Paddy. Needs to get this or he's out.
No pressure then.
No pressure at all, mate.
I'm torn between a couple of centre halves. I'll go with, I don't think it's going to be right, but Sebastian Coates. I know he was around that season.
Unfortunately, you've bombed out.
Oh.
He wasn't there.
Never mind.
Paddy is gone. Right, Paul.
Gonna go with Patrick Van Aanholt.
He's on the bench. You get to go again. So we've got 2 left still to find. I'll run through the team. So it's Pantilimon, Billy Jones, John O'Shea, Wes Brown, Sam Arsehole, Seb Larsson, Josie Altidore, Yuri Gomez, Connor Wickham.
Gonna go with. I don't think Key was with us then, but I'm gonna go with him anyway. Key.
No, he'd left by that point.
Ah.
So Paul bombs out, which means Bomber wins it.
Hey.
Was Virginie in there?
So your full lineup was Pantilimon, Santiago Virginie, Billy Jones, Liam Bridcut, John O'Shea, Wes Brown, that arsehole, Seb Larsson, Altidore, Gomez, Wickham. And then on the bench was Manone, Van Aanholt, Catamol, Jack Rodwell, Will Buckley, Jaccarini, and Stephen Fletcher.
What a bench that is.
So
Jaccarini.
you'd love to have that bench now, mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Maybe not Rodwell.
Bomber goes joint top with John Stacey on playing away. So that is us done. Thank you very much for listening. Bomber, been lovely to see you as always.
Yeah, lovely to see and speak to you all again. It's good to be back.
Paul, absolute pleasure having you on.
Yeah, been great to be back. Thanks, guys.
And Paddy, I hope I've not scared you off and you'll be back again.
No, I've had a brilliant time as an exile for the first time. I hope to be back.
Thank you very much for listening. Obviously, if you haven't subscribed yet, do so from Acast, your Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to us on. Subscribe. If you enjoyed it, give us a 5-star review. If you didn't enjoy it, keep it to yourself. Nobody likes the grass. Yeah. Thanks for being aboard. Speak to you later.